I hadn't seen Eli in 4 years, not since high school graduation, not since we'd hugged in the gym parking lot and said the classic "don't be a stranger" thing that both of us knew we wouldn't follow through on. He went east for college, I stayed in California. He pledged a frat, I went to film school. We drifted. No drama, no fallout, just time. Then last month, he messaged me on Instagram, "Eli, yo, this is random, but I just moved out to LA for a job. Any chance you've got a couch I could crash on for a few nights while I apartment hunt?" I stared at the message for a long time, unsure why my chest tightened just reading his name. Me, yeah, for sure, I got you. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe some frat bro who'd grown up into a finance guy or something. But when Eli showed up at my door, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, I swear for a second it felt like high school again. He was taller, broader, hair longer, a little messy in that way that looks unintentional but definitely isn't. But his smile, that was exactly the same. Big, honest, easy. "You look the same," he said, stepping into my apartment like it still smelled familiar. Except skinnier. I'll take that as a compliment. I hadn't thought about Eli in a long time. Not really. Not about that summer before college. Not about the party where he'd fallen asleep in my bed, arms slung over my chest, both of us pretending we were too drunk to move. Not about the way he looked at me once, just once, like he knew. The first couple days were chill. We caught up, watched trash TV, went out for ramen. He was crashing on my tiny IKEA couch, curled up under a thin blanket, headphones in, completely unbothered. On the fourth night, it rained. A rare, cold LA rain that made the whole apartment feel damp and weirdly quiet. We were halfway through a movie when the power flickered and cut out completely. "Guess that's our cue," I said, standing to find some candles. Eli stretched on the couch, yawning. "Your couch is actively trying to kill my spine." "Yeah, that's kind of its thing." There was a long pause as I lit a candle and set it on the coffee table. The glow flickered over his face, softening him, making him look younger than he had when he first walked in. He scratched the back of his neck, sat up a little. "Hey," he said, "this is gonna sound weird, but can I just crash in your bed tonight, like old times?" My stomach twisted. "Yeah, sure." We didn't say much after that. Just brushed our teeth in awkward silence like we were kids again. He borrowed a t-shirt of mine, and I couldn't help but notice how snug it fit across his chest now. I crawled into bed first, keeping to my side, every muscle tense. He got in after, pulling the blanket up with a sigh. "Still the same setup," he muttered, voice low. "You on the left, me on the right." "Some things don't change," I said, staring at the ceiling. A few minutes passed. I thought he was asleep when I felt it. His hand, brushing against my arm under the blanket. I froze. "You remember that night before you left for school?" Eli asked, barely above a whisper. My throat went dry. "Yeah, I almost kissed you." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I turned to face him in the dark, heart hammering. "Why didn't you?" He was quiet for a second. Then he shifted and I felt the bed move beneath me. "I don't know," he said, "but I haven't stopped thinking about it since." He leaned in, just close enough that I could feel his breath on my face. Then, without asking, he climbed on top of me. I didn't move, not because I was frozen or shocked or confused, but because part of me had been waiting for this since I was 19. Eli hovered there for a second, one knee between my legs, the weight of him settling like a slow pressure across my hips. His face was just inches from mine. I could barely make him out in the candlelight, just the shape of his jaw, the twitch of his mouth, the way his eyes searched mine like he was still asking a question he couldn't say out loud. And then he kissed me. It wasn't gentle, it wasn't slow, it was 4 years of whatever this was, crashing all at once. His lips were warm, firm, and his hand found my jaw like it had been there before. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. I kissed him back. It was messy, a little desperate, like we both knew this moment had been sitting between us for years, quietly building pressure. When we finally pulled apart, our foreheads touched, both of us breathless. "Jesus," he whispered, voice thick. "I didn't think you'd let me." "You're the one who climbed on top of me," I muttered, and Eli let out a soft laugh. Nervous, shaky. "Yeah, well," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I figured if you were gonna punch me, at least I'd go out with one good kiss." "You've had better ideas." He rolled off me, settling back onto the bed beside me, but his hand stayed on my chest. Not moving, just there. Steady. A silence fell between us. Not awkward, but dense. Like we were both waiting for one of us to say something that would make this either real or forgettable. "Why now?" I asked finally. Eli exhaled slowly. "I don't know. I think I always knew. Back in high school, I'd get this feeling when I was around you. I never really understood it. I thought it was just a phase, or hormones, or whatever. But then after college, I'd still think about you. Random stuff. Like your laugh, or how you always ate pizza crust first." I snorted. "That's what did it for you." He smiled. "It's the little things." Another pause. "And Rachel?" I asked, keeping my voice level. Eli was quiet for a moment. She was great, but it was never like this. Never electric. I looked over at him. He was staring at the ceiling again, like he was afraid to meet my eyes now that the moment had passed. "You're not just confused?" I asked, not just using me as a safe place to crash and explore something. He turned to me then, eyes dark but focused. "If I was confused, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have messaged you. I wouldn't have kissed you." He paused. "I've thought about this, about you, for longer than I care to admit." I nodded slowly. My heart was still racing, but something inside me had started to settle. Not in a way that meant this was simple or figured out, but in a way that meant he wasn't playing. "You still want the couch tomorrow?" I asked, voice teasing. Eli smirked. "Not if this is an option." He leaned in again, but this time the kiss was slower. Less frantic. His hand slid to my waist, and I let mine tangle in his hair. That night, we didn't sleep much. We didn't rush into anything either. It was more like we were relearning each other. How we fit, how we moved, how it felt to finally stop pretending. And in the middle of all that, there was a moment, quiet, small, when Eli tucked his head into the crook of my neck and whispered, "I should have done this years ago." The morning after was weird in the way that mornings after always are. Not bad weird, just uncertain. The apartment felt too quiet, the air too still. Eli was still asleep beside me, one arm draped across my stomach, his face relaxed in a way I hadn't seen since he showed up at my door 4 nights ago. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to decide how I was supposed to feel. Happy? Nervous? Cautiously optimistic? It's not like I hadn't imagined this exact moment before. Eli, in my bed, soft morning light sneaking in through the curtains. But I never expected it to feel this delicate. I shifted a little, and Eli stirred, mumbling something I didn't catch before nuzzling back into my shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. His hand splayed over my chest, fingers twitching slightly like he was chasing something in a dream. I let him sleep. Eventually, around 9, he blinked awake and sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. His hair was a mess, sticking up on one side. He looked at me, then at where he was, then back at me again. "Morning," he said, his voice raspy. "Hey." He sat in silence for a moment, like he was trying to decide what version of himself to be right now. Casual Eli, jokey Eli, emotionally vulnerable Eli. Instead, he settled on real Eli, the one I hadn't seen since we were 17. "That wasn't a mistake," he said. "I know." He looked relieved at that, like maybe he thought I was gonna chalk it all up to the rain, the nostalgia, the late hour. Like he expected me to sweep it under the rug and say, "Hey, no big deal, it was just a kiss." But it wasn't, and we both knew it. I don't know what this is yet, he said, but I know I want to find out. I nodded, biting the inside of my cheek. Then let's find out. Eli smiled, and for a second, it really did feel like high school again. The kind of moment you don't realize is going to mean something until years later. We got up, made coffee, acted like we didn't just kiss the past into something new the night before. He sat on the counter like he used to back in high school when he'd come over after track practice, swinging his legs, sipping from my favorite mug like he'd earned it. "So," he said, "what's the plan today?" I shrugged. "Didn't have one." He paused. "Can we not tell anyone yet?" I wasn't surprised. I didn't take it personally. "Yeah, we don't have to make it a thing." "It's not that I'm ashamed." "I get it, Eli," I said gently. "You just got out of a long relationship. You just moved across the country. This doesn't have to be defined by a Facebook status." He let out a breath of relief. "Thank you." That afternoon, he went apartment hunting. I stayed back, trying to focus on editing a client's video, but my brain was still stuck in bed with him. Still stuck on the way he kissed me like he meant it. Around 6, he texted, "Eli, didn't find anything good. You still good with me crashing a few more days?" Me. "Yeah, couch is open." He replied with a winking emoji. And then, a minute later, another message. "Eli, unless your bed's still open too." That night, he took the couch. I didn't ask why. Didn't press. Maybe he needed space. Maybe he didn't want it to feel like we were skipping steps, going from a kiss to something else, without figuring out what this actually was. Still, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling for over an hour, listening to the soft creak of the couch every time he shifted, the occasional buzz of his phone, the low murmur of whatever late-night show he had playing on mute. Eventually, the apartment went quiet, and then I heard him get up. The door to my room cracked open, letting in a thin sliver of hallway light. I didn't move, just waited. "You awake?" he whispered. I turned my head toward the sound. "Yeah." Eli stepped in and closed the door behind him. He didn't say anything else, just walked across the room and slipped under the blanket beside me like it was already decided. This time, he didn't hesitate. His arm wrapped around my waist, his chest pressing warm against my back, and I exhaled slowly, finally letting my body relax into his. "You okay?" I asked quietly. "Yeah," he said. I just didn't want to sleep alone tonight. There was something in his voice, vulnerability I hadn't heard before. Not just tiredness or post-breakup haze, something heavier, like being here, in my bed, was the only thing keeping the pieces of him from scattering. We didn't do anything that night. No kissing, no messing around, just held each other. I could feel the rise and fall of his chest against my back, the way his fingers curled lightly into the fabric of my shirt, like he needed to hold on to something real. The next morning, he didn't leave my bed. Not right away. We just lay there, half asleep, the kind of quiet comfort you only get when everything feels safe, when you don't have to explain why you're there. Eventually, I rolled over to face him. His eyes were still closed, but there was the ghost of a smile on his face. "Are you ever gonna find a place, or are you just gonna keep seducing your way into this bed every night?" He smirked without opening his eyes. "Well, depends. Is it working?" "Not sure yet," I teased. "The seduction game could use some polish." He opened one eye. "Wow, tough crowd." Later that day, he had a job interview. Some architecture firm in Echo Park. He left wearing the only clean button-down he had, paired with my belt and my old dress shoes, because, apparently, he hadn't unpacked anything but hoodies and sneakers. As he stood by the door, adjusting his collar in the mirror, I caught myself watching him, noticing little things. The way he bit his lip when he was nervous. The way he kept glancing back at me like he was trying to memorize something. Before he left, he turned and looked at me for a long moment. "I'm gonna figure this out," he said. "The job, the apartment, everything, but I don't want to lose this. Whatever this is." "You won't," I said, "unless you start leaving your socks all over the floor." That got a smile. He left, and the apartment felt weirdly empty without him. Like I'd gotten used to the sound of his laugh in the kitchen, his shoes by the door, the dent his body made in my shitty couch cushions. It was strange how fast you could get used to someone being around again. Stranger how quickly it started to matter. Eli got the job. He came back that afternoon still wearing my belt and shoes, grinning like he couldn't contain it. They offered me a 3-month trial contract, he said. Voice bright was something I hadn't seen in him since he arrived. Starts Monday. That's awesome, I said, and I meant it. But there was a weird twist in my stomach too. Not jealousy, just the quiet realization that things were going to shift again. He'd be busier, he'd have structure, he'd probably start looking for his own place for real. Eli didn't seem to notice my pause. He dropped onto the couch, hands running through his hair. God, I forgot how good it feels to have something go right for once. I handed him a beer. You earned it. He took a long sip, then looked at me over the rim of the bottle. You helped? I shrugged. All I did was lend you a couch. You did more than that, he said. You didn't ask questions. You didn't make it weird. You made this feel like a soft place to land. My throat tightened. I looked away, trying to play it off. Well, I always liked you better when you were horizontal anyway, Eli grinned. Don't lie. You liked me plenty standing up too. We both laughed, but it lingered, something quieter beneath the joke. That night, he didn't bother pretending he was going to sleep on the couch. He brushed his teeth, stole another one of my shirts, and climbed straight into my bed like it was already his. I turned off the light and slid in next to him. This time, it wasn't shy or hesitant. His arm went around me immediately, and I turned to face him in the dark. What happens when you get your own place? I asked. He was quiet for a beat. Depends. On what? On whether I'm sleeping alone in it. I stared at him, trying to read his expression in the dark. That sounds like a line. It's not, he said. I don't want this to be temporary. You and me. I know I showed up here a mess, and maybe this timing is all wrong, but I'm not confused. I know how I feel. You don't think it's just nostalgia? I asked. Old high school bond, all that? Eli shook his head. No. If anything, I think I've been trying to make everyone else not you for the last 4 years. That's why nothing stuck. That hit me harder than I expected. I didn't answer right away. I just reached for his hand under the blanket and held it. His thumb brushed over my knuckles like he was memorizing them. We didn't say anything more that night. We didn't have to. Over the next week, our rhythm shifted. Eli started going into work early, coming back late, exhausted and paint splattered from whatever architectural models he was messing with. But he always came back to me, always dropped his bag at the door, and collapsed onto the couch with a groan, waiting for me to sit beside him so he could tuck himself under my arm like it was our unspoken ritual. He'd talk about his coworkers, the weird office politics, the guy who brought in sardines every lunch. I'd listen, laugh, make us dinner. He started using we when he talked about the apartment. We need to fix that lamp. We should get a better toaster. It was subtle, but I noticed. It felt like we were becoming something real. Not just comfort, not just timing. One night, as we were lying in bed, Eli turned to me and asked, "Do you think people would be surprised?" By what? If they knew about us. I thought for a second. Some would, most wouldn't. He raised an eyebrow. You think it was that obvious? I think you always looked at me like this, I said, brushing my thumb over his cheek. You just didn't realize it. He smiled, then kissed me, slow and certain. I realize it now. Eli's trial period at work turned into a permanent position before the month was over. It wasn't surprising. He was smart, a hard worker, and had that effortless charm that made people want to say yes to him. But the night he got the official offer letter, he celebrated by picking up cheap champagne and takeout, insisting we do something classy to mark the occasion. You realize you're drinking bubbly from a coffee mug, right? I asked, holding mine up. He clinked his mug against mine anyway. Shut up and toast me. To steady jobs, I said, and finally buying your own groceries. To staying exactly where I am, he replied. I gave him a look. You mean here? Yeah, here. With you. He said it so casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. No hesitation, no anxiety, just fact. Eli never brought up moving out again after that night, and I didn't ask. We just settled into something that felt more solid with every passing day. Shared meals turned into grocery runs. My laundry became our laundry. He started adding his music to my Spotify playlists, stealing my socks, reorganizing the spice rack like he lived here. Because he did. He was still sleeping in my bed, still brushing his teeth with my toothpaste, still wrapping his arms around me at 3 a.m. like I was the thing anchoring him. But then came the weekend visit from his brother. I knew Jake from high school, a few years older, serious, had that ex-military kind of presence that always made everyone stand up straighter. I hadn't seen him in years, but when he walked through the door Friday night, it was like being back in gym class again. Jake looked around the apartment, offered me a firm handshake, then turned to Eli. Nice place. Yours? Eli paused for half a second. Yeah, ours actually. I'm staying with? Living with Tyler now. I pretended not to notice the stumble, the way he skipped over the part that mattered. I didn't say anything that night, but later, after Jake had gone to sleep on the couch and we were back in bed, I turned to Eli in the dark. Why didn't you tell him? He was quiet then. It's not that I'm hiding you, it caught me off guard. You've had a month. I know, he whispered. I just wasn't sure how to explain it. I rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling. You don't need to explain it. You just need to own it. Eli didn't respond for a long time. I felt the shift in the bed, the tension in his shoulders, the way he pulled slightly away from me. Not a lot, but enough. Eventually, he said, I'm still figuring out how to talk about this. About us. I nodded, even though he couldn't see it. Okay, just don't take too long. The rest of the weekend was fine. Jake left Sunday afternoon, and the apartment went quiet again. Eli stood in the kitchen, staring into the fridge like it might tell him how to fix things. I leaned in the doorway, watching him. I'm not mad, I said finally. He shut the fridge door and turned to face me. I don't want to mess this up. Then don't. He walked toward me, slow, deliberate, like he wasn't sure if he had the right. He stopped just a few inches away. I've never done this before, he said. Not just dating a guy, I mean caring this much. I could have made a joke, could have said something light, brushed it off. Instead, I stepped closer, put a hand on his chest. You don't have to get it perfect, Eli. You just have to show up. I'm here, he said. I swear I'm here. I kissed him then, not because I needed to, but because I wanted him to know I believed him. And I did. By the end of that month, it was no longer my place. Eli had fully taken over half the closet. His shoes were scattered by the door, his favorite hoodie was permanently draped over the back of the couch, and somehow we now owned 3 different kinds of oat milk. We were cohabitating in every way that mattered. Cooking, sleeping, existing in shared silence without awkwardness. Still, I hadn't said the words. Neither had he. It hovered there, unspoken but thick between us. I felt it. When he kissed the back of my neck in the mornings, or when he reached for my hand on the sidewalk without even looking. But the words hadn't come yet. Then, one Saturday night, everything shifted. We'd been out with a few of my friends at a casual backyard hangout. The kind of thing with folding chairs, beers in solo cups, and someone's badly curated Spotify playlist in the background. I'd invited Eli without thinking twice. He said yes without hesitation. Everything was good, normal, until one of the guys, Corey, said something that made everything slow down. So you two just roommates, or? He was grinning, clearly joking, clearly fishing, but the silence that followed was louder than anything Eli or I had said in weeks. Eli looked at me, I looked at him, and then, without breaking eye contact, he reached for my hand. Not just roommates, he said, voice steady. We're together. The words hit me like a tidal wave. Stunning in their simplicity, beautiful in their weight. I didn't say anything at first, just squeezed his hand and nodded. My chest ached in the best way. Corey raised his brows, chuckled. Damn, okay, I see it. The night moved on, but something about that moment stuck. When we got home later, Eli didn't let go of my hand until we were inside. He dropped his keys on the counter and leaned against it, watching me like he was trying to read the fallout. You okay? He asked. I nodded. Yeah. You? He gave a small, uncertain laugh. Honestly, I feel lighter. You came out, I said. To strangers, technically. I know, he replied. But it felt like I was saying it to myself, too. I walked over and wrapped my arms around him. He leaned into me, burying his face in the side of my neck. You did good, I whispered. We stood like that for a while. Eventually, he pulled back, eyes a little shinier than usual. Okay, one more confession, he said. Don't laugh. I raised a brow. Go on. I've been wanting to say something for a while now, but I didn't want to screw it up, or make it too soon, or scare you. My heart thumped. He took a breath. I love you, he said. The world got really quiet, and then I said it back. Not because I felt obligated, not because it was the right time, but because it had been true for weeks. I love you too, Eli. His smile was soft and real. He kissed me, slow and deliberate. And when we pulled apart, I knew something had changed. We weren't figuring it out anymore. We were in it. 3 months later, we found a bigger apartment. Eli had officially outgrown the couch guest turned accidental roommate phase, and while I didn't mind sharing my tiny one bedroom, the cramped space started feeling like a metaphor we'd outlived. We needed room, physically, emotionally, to build something of our own instead of borrowing from what had once just been mine. The new place wasn't fancy, but it had light, big windows, hardwood floors that creaked in the right kind of way, a view of the hills from the bedroom window that Eli liked to look at while brushing his teeth. He claimed it helped him mentally prepare for capitalism. We picked the couch together this time. It was soft, deep, something neither of us had to sleep on anymore, but both of us loved to nap on. When it arrived, Eli flopped on it dramatically, arms spread out like he'd just crossed a finish line. No more crashing, he said. This one's ours. That word, ours, never stopped hitting me in the chest. He'd started using it more. Our place, our shelf, our Sunday thing. There was no ceremony to it, no grand declaration, but that word built a kind of quiet permanence that I trusted more than anything else. Eli wasn't a different person now. He was still messy with the kitchen towels, still left his socks in weird places, still said bro too much when he was excited, but he also kissed me on the shoulder while I made coffee. He learned the way I liked my eggs without asking. He called me babe like it was nothing and everything. Some nights we'd stay up late, lying in bed, talking about how weird it all was. How the hell did this happen? He asked once, his hand tracing idle shapes on my chest. You showed up needing a couch, I said, and then you climbed on top of me. He laughed, rolling onto his side. Honestly, bold move. Surprisingly effective, but beneath the jokes there was something softer, a kind of awe we both carried, not just at how far we'd come, but at how easy it had been to get here once we stopped running from it. Eli wasn't the guy that first kissed once in high school and then forgot. He was the guy that first loved waking up next to, the guy who left little post-it notes on the fridge when he worked late, the guy who once sat on my bed in the middle of the night, unsure of who he was, and slowly, piece by piece, figured it out, right here with me. And now he was home.